Some people like to show off. Their cars say, "Look at me." They've got spoilers and stripes and fat exhausts that tell you that they're driving a racing car. But often, it's a bit of an act. And some people don't like to show off. They want the fast car, a very fast car, but they don't want to advertise it. Well, drivers like that might fancy one of these. And the only real way to tell this car apart from an ordinary humdrum BMW 3 Series is this little badge here. And it says M. M stands for Motorsport, BMW's tuning division. In 1986, they took the humble 3 Series and turned it into a street-legal racer. Yes, it did have spoilers, sports wheels and flared wheel arches, but as fast cars go, it was pretty discreet. If you didn't know this was a muscle car, you wouldn't give it a second glance. But I'm not driving the M3 today because it's a discreet performance car. I'm driving it because it's a great car that's become a little bit maligned these days, thanks to the number of quick BMWs that have been launched since. And that means that they're very affordable. What? A classic quick BMW that's available for little money? That's got to be worth a look, hasn't it? But before we deal in the vulgarity of price, let's look at what you get. First, an engine. Now, most manufacturers take an engine and tune it 10 different ways and put it into 10 different cars, but the engine in the M3 is unique. It's a 4-cylinder, 2.3-litre or 2.5-litre engine with a 16-valve head, which is derived from the M10 F1 engine, which was used for racing and in 6-cylinder form appeared in the legendary M1 supercar. Back in 1986, this engine was pretty special, and today, it's still special. Performance figures are pretty impressive as well. 60 arrives in less than 7 seconds. Not bad for a 20-year-old car. Now, this engine produces 195 horsepower, which is pretty impressive when you consider that there's no turbo, no supercharger, and no tricky variable valve timing technology. And pottering around at 2,000 revs is remarkably good. These kind of engines tend to only produce their best performance when you get it right out beyond about 5,000 revs. Let's pop it down a gear or two and see what she's like. OK, 3,000 revs, starting to pull 4,000 revs. Yeah, stronger, 5,000 revs. There's a real step at 5,000. OK, it's going on to 140 miles an hour. Let's just back right off. This is a fantastic engine. And the handling is equally good. That's down to a 50-50 weight distribution, a wide track and lowered suspension. Plus, where a modern sports saloon might leave you feeling a bit disconnected from the tarmac, the M3 always gives you tons of feedback. I even got 25 miles to the gallon on the test, which isn't bad for a car with this kind of performance. Because the M3 is designed for racing, it's got a dogleg first gear on the gearbox. The reason for this is it groups together the upper 4 ratios much closer together and means you spend less time changing between the gears. So you're in gear for longer and you're going faster. Is it any wonder that the M3 was a touring car legend? Now, I've told you that the M3 has got a brilliant engine. I've told you that the handling is little short of sensational. I've even said that I quite like how it looks. But what I haven't mentioned is the price. Back in the 80s, these cars cost the equivalent of £40,000 to £50,000. But now you can pick up a well-cared-for, low-mileage example for a little over £6,000. Now, that's a lot of money for a car that's getting on for 20 years old. But it's not much money for a car that's this well-engineered, that's this much fun to drive, and that's this collectible. And because it's a 3 Series, it's easy to park and run and find bits for. It's large enough to get the kids and the golf clubs in the back, and looks interesting enough to cut you some cred on the way to work. For those in the know, of course. Is your money safe? I think so, especially if you invest in one of the limited-run Evo cars, with the final Sport Evolution model being the most highly prized. And if you want something that looks a bit different, then you can always go for the hand-built convertible model. As for prices, the car is well known to car aficionados, but in general, it's undervalued. Clean, original cars will always be the most sought after, and these are the cars that will hold their value the best. Avoid modified cars. The guys who max them up may love them, but they'll never be as highly prized. And quite frankly, why mess with perfection? I reckon that in the future, as performance cars become increasingly festooned with electronic driver aids, this original back-to-basics M3 will come to be recognised as one of the classic driver's cars.